Wednesday night, the Arizona Coyotes play their last ever game as a franchise here in the desert when they take on the Edmonton Oilers at the Mullett Arena. Then Thursday morning, the entire team and its staff will be boarding a flight and heading to Salt Lake City to take a look at their new digs. So today we're asking the question about a lot of players on the current Coyotes roster. Is it Salt Lake City or bust? Hey everybody, welcome into Clearing the Benches, your one-stop shop for daily fresh hockey content. If you go ahead and hit your subscribe button right now, every single day we'll bring you in a new hockey video to enjoy. Well, Thursday morning the Coyotes are going to be boarding a flight and they're going to be heading to Salt Lake City to take a look at their new home for the foreseeable future. I'm sure a lot of these kids have never been to Salt Lake City before, so I'm sure when that plane is coming in to land, they're all going to be looking out their window to see what Salt Lake City's all about. And, you know, this is, again, going to be some place where these kids could be living for the next 3, 4, 5 years, depending on their contract. So they're going to definitely be very interested in what Salt Lake City's got to offer. So what we've done today is we've taken the current Coyotes roster and we have broken it down into 4 groups. We've got the hell no, we won't go group. We've got too young to rock the boat. We've got I deserve a raise. And one and done. So let's get right up to the top of it. Let's go with hell no, we won't go. The first thing I'm going to say is the Arizona Coyotes currently have 0 defensemen signed for next year. A lot of these guys are UFAs and a couple of them are RFAs. I personally think that the only 2 defensemen that they're going to sign going into Salt Lake City for the future is going to be Michael Kesselring and Sean Durzi. I think they're going to let the guys like Josh Brown, JJ Moser, Valimaki, Sean Durbett, I think they're going to let all of those guys walk. I think some of them may garner some interest around the league, but not so much. A lot of these guys, in my opinion, are 6th or 7th defensemen on a roster. And, you know, again, teams in the playoffs, you know, Josh Brown, I was a little bit surprised, didn't get traded to a playoff team just to have some added extra defensive depth and a bigger guy who's not afraid to muck it up. When I look at some of the big name guys on this team, I was shocked to see that Clayton Keller did not have a no move, no trade clause in his contract. There's only 2 players on this current roster with no trade clauses in their contract, and that is Nick Schmaltz, who is signed up at $6 million through 2025, 26, so that's a couple more years he's got. And the other guy that's on that list is Kerfoot, and he's got 1 more year on his contract at about $3.5 million. So as far as the hell no, we won't go department goes, I think they're going to gut their defensive core. I think they'll probably keep those 2 guys, Kesselring and Durzi. They seem like they've got the most upside, and they're going to let these other guys walk. I think Clayton Keller, he's a big-time golf guy. Just so you know, the average weather temperature in Scottsdale is about 20 degrees warmer than it is in Salt Lake City. You get far less rain, you get far less cloudy days, and it is very, very, very golf friendly. Scottsdale, especially Phoenix, I believe, has got more golf courses per square mile than like any other place in the world. Clayton Keller's a big golf guy. He's got a little pitch and putt in his backyard. Is he going to want to go to a place where he's not going to be able to, you know, play golf in his backyard after a game or on his day off? And again, when you look at him, he signed for like 4 or 5 more years at $7 million a year. I personally just don't think Clayton Keller is going to turn out to be a Salt Lake City type of guy. And if he did indeed ask for a trade, and, you know, I could see 2 places really making the most sense. And one of them is very, very obvious because he played with Austin Matthews at the All-Star game. And apparently him and Matthews have got a little bit of a relationship going. You know, Matthews is from here. Keller lives here. They both like to hang out. You know, they seem like both chill guys. So it makes sense that they would get along. And again, you know, I know it was the All-Star game. Nobody plays defense, but it looked like those 2 really had some chemistry there. And then the other place I could see Keller asking to go to is back to his hometown of St. Louis. You know, they've got some guys on their roster. You know, these would all ask for big return. You know, you send Keller to another team. You send Keller to Toronto. I'm going to figure they're going to be asking for like Matthew Nyes and a draft pick. If they were to send him to St. Louis, I could see, them asking for like Pavel Buchnevich and possibly a draft pick to balance that out. Those are, right around equal comparisons right now. Nick Schmaltz is another guy. He's got a no trade, no movement clause in his contract, so he could, take 10 teams that he didn't want to go to, and if Salt Lake City, was going to be one of those teams, he might be able to force his way out. When I look at him, Schmaltz, he's a frail guy. I'm not going to say he's injury prone, but he only averages about 60 games a year. Somehow, and it's one of those things when you're watching these games, he's out there making noise, but somehow he's a point per game guy. And if you watch as many games as I do, I would not have thought that. I would have thought he was more around like 35 points than he is closer to 60 points. But apparently he is doing better than I think he is. So Schmaltz would be another guy. I don't know if he's going to, want to live in Salt Lake City after living down here in the desert and all the nice weather. He's making $6 million a year, and they've got him signed up for a couple more years. If he did ask for a trade, he's from Madison, Wisconsin. I could easily see him saying, hey, trade me back to Chicago where the Coyotes got him from. And you know what? He would be a good guy to have out there with, Bedard. Schmaltz can be a finisher. He's a streaky scorer, and he has put up numbers. Believe it or not, Schmaltz once scored 8 points in an NHL game. But I don't know if he's the Salt Lake City type of guy. So these would be the two guys that I could see possibly saying, you know what, maybe I want to play somewhere else. Then we've got the too young to rock the boat group. And in my opinion, these are all kids that are just happy to be playing in the NHL. They're happy to be making the amount of money that they're making. They're happy that they're living the celebrity lifestyle. People open the doors for you everywhere you go, and people clamor over you everywhere you go. And there's a lot of names on this list that I think that these guys would just say, hey, you know what? We're going to go along for the ride. And until Salt Lake City gives us a reason not to like it, we're just going to go along and we're going to go with it. And I doubt highly that any kind of management group is going to want to separate Cooley, Guenther, or Doan. And again, I would think that the two defensemen that they would bring in, these kids are both like 22, 23 years old, and Michael Kesselring, Sean Durzi. The other guys on that list would be Matthias Michelli and Barrett Hayden. Unfortunately, Hayden had a good year last year, but then he was injured most of this year. He's an RFA, and I believe he was making around $1.75 million this year. I don't know if the Coyotes are going to offer him that much money. I know he was supposed to have come back during the season, and then there was a little bit of a hiccup in his progress, so they kept him out. I know he played a few games in the meantime, but then they kept him out for the end of the season. So I could see all of these guys saying, hey, you know what? I've never been to Salt Lake City before, or I'm just too young to complain about stuff. I'm living the good life, So I could see all these guys, Cooley, Guenther, Doan, Kesselring, Durzi, Michelli, all being part of that team. And I could also see, Hayden may have to take a little bit of a pay cut to come back, but I think that they would offer him something. He was the 5th overall pick not too long ago, and the kid's got a good net front presence game. Next up, we've got the I deserve a raise list. And there's only a couple of guys that are on this list, and I think the Coyotes, or whatever they're going to be moving forward, I think both of them should bring these two guys back in. These guys are both barely making any money. And I'm talking about Michael Carcone, he made $775,000 this year, 1 year after he led the AHL in scoring. I believe Carcone almost had 20 goals this year if he didn't have 20 goals. And I believe that he's a guy that they want to keep around these young kids because he's got a skill set that can play with these guys. And another guy on this list, and let me tell you something, I am going to be the first one to say I was wrong about this guy. Coming into the season, I had written off Liam O'Brien as just a cast-off. Who cares whatever happens to this guy? This guy won me over this year. He plays with so much heart. He fought every tough guy in the league that came across his path. He did not back down from anybody. He chipped in with a couple of nice goals this year. You know, one of them was a backhander. He roofed. You know, and honestly, I looked at him and I didn't even know that O'Brien had that type of skill set, but he definitely does. So I can see them offering Liam O'Brien. He's a free agent. And I'll tell you what, any playoff teams out there would be running, I think, to sign this guy for the next season. He blocks shots. He is a team-first guy. And I think if they keep the current coaching staff in order, I think that they will offer him a deal. And I think maybe he made like $775 this year. Maybe they would offer him up to about $1 million. And then next up, I've got a list of guys that I think would be one and done. All of these guys have about a year left on their contract, and I think that they would honor the contract. These are all guys that are a little bit older, and these are like, you know, more your mentors on the team. And I think guys like Alex Kerfoot, Bugstad, McBain, Krause, all of these guys, you know, some of these guys are in their mid-20s. Some of these guys are in their late 20s. I think Kerfoot or Bugstad may be as old as 30 years old. But none of these guys are breaking the bank. Krause, he's got 3 years left at $4.3 million. I know Krause loved living in Scottsdale. He's got a family. I know he just got married. I believe he's either got a kid on the way or he just had a kid. $4.3 million is a lot of money to be making. And again, you're in there for 3 more years. I would think that a guy like Lawson Krause is going to go into Salt Lake City and say, I'm going to try to make the best of this. And again, until there's a reason for them not to like it, I think that he's going to give it a shot. And then finally, we've got the goaltender situation. Surprisingly, Karel Vejmelka makes about $700,000 more a year than Connor Ingram does. And in my opinion, Connor Ingram is just heads and tails. He is a better goalie than Vejmelka. I know that Vejmelka, there was a lot of games where it looked like the Coyotes quit in front of him, where they didn't do that in front of Ingram. But Vejmelka let up a lot of soft goals this year. And to be honest with you, coming into the season, I wasn't even really sure that they would even bring Vejmelka back. I think Connor Ingram, you know, he had big numbers during a stretch this year where he beat every Stanley Cup team. I think he tied for first with about 6 shutouts for the league lead. So if Connor Ingram decided he wanted to take his skills elsewhere, I think there'd be a line of guys, that teams that would be looking to bring him into the fold. So that's going to be it for our video today. Salt Lake City or bust. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think any of these guys are going to force a trade or if they're going to say, nope, I'm not playing there. Let me know if you think these guys are going to go there and all prosper. Maybe some of these young kids just don't care where they're playing. Maybe they're just happy to be playing in the NHL. So again, if you could, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And as we always do here at Clearing the Benches, let them know you're out there.